Hi, this is Dee from Dee Book Art, and today I'm going to show you how to make a cloth-covered journal. So let's start with the supplies. I have a nice tacky glue that's clear. I like this because it dries pretty fast and it's nice that it's clear. I have my craft journal that I just bought on Amazon. I have a piece of woven cloth. It's a cotton. It's actually half of a quilting fat fat piece or whatever you call them. And it's cut just slightly larger than the book. I've got some alligator clips that I'm going to use to hold the book in place while it dries. I've got a pencil, a ruler, a nice pair of scissors, and this is a fusible interfacing. And I've cut the fusible interfacing to match the size of the cover of the book, including, both sides and the back. So that's the size of the interfacing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to iron the interfacing onto the wrong side of the cloth. So I will go do that and then start again. Okay, I have ironed the interfacing onto the wrong side of this cloth. And I'm noticing that the cloth is probably too wide on the side than I want. So I'm going to go ahead and trim it about an inch and a half, an inch to an inch and a half around the size of the binding. And then my cloth also has this kind of fuzzy selvage, and so I'm going to actually cut that fuzz off just because I don't want to deal with it. It would be tricky to get all those little fuzzes to glue down flat. Okay, goes away. All right, now I am ready. I'm going to take the tacky glue and I'm going to use a brush to apply it. But first I need to find the middle of my piece of facing here. So it looks like it's 31 centimeters, so half of that would be 15 and a half. 15 and a half, I'm just going to mark that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put some glue on the spine of my journal. Now, this journal has a book place ribbon, so I'm going to just tuck that in so it doesn't get in the way while I'm working. So I'll just dip a brush into the glue, glue it, and apply it on the spine on an even coat. Then I'm going to center that spine on those marks that I just made. Press it down for a minute, and then I'm just going to go ahead and use my hand to smooth that down. All right. Now I'm going to do these parts here. So I'm going to take some glue and brush along that groove there with the glue and a nice even coat. And then I'm going to rub that down a bit to get that glued in firmly. And then do that on the other side. This is why you want a tacky glue, even though it's not all the way dry. I'm gonna get one of these, pull my brush. It actually sticks pretty quickly, so you don't have to wait forever for it. Okay, now I'm going to go back to one side, and then I'm going to paint the glue just around the outside. So the reason why I ironed on this interfacing is the interfacing helps the glue not to soak through the fabric and make spots on the fabric. I used a lightweight interfacing, but you can use a medium weight, just whatever you have at the house. It works just as well to use a medium weight interfacing. And we're going to just glue it around down, nice and solid. And so smooth. Leave that to you. So I've got that basically glued on the front and the back. All right, now I'm going to open this up, and actually I need something to help the book like be open, so I'm going to use my good old yoga pad, and I'm going to take, let's look at it so you can see. All right, this is important. I'm going to cut the corner off, but I'm not going to cut it right to the corner. I'm going to leave about a 1/4 or a 3/8 inch from that corner. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this corner. And then I'm also going to cut to where the binding bends, straight down to where the binding bends. I'll do it on this straight down to where the binding bends. And then that cut, I cut it straight down first, but then I'm going to cut it in at a diagonal. Cut off a diagonal piece. About that shape. A diagonal piece on this side. To where that bends. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to the blue. And I'm going to just first paint just those corners. And oh yeah, and also just along this diagonal edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold over that corner right there. And then I'm going to push down and make kind of a little hem there. And then I'll pull this over. Maybe more glue than I needed. I'm going to fold that over to make a nice clean corner. This way I don't have any frayed edges showing. I'll do the same thing on this side. Fold that. So I'll fold over the tip first, like that. Push this down to make a little hem, and then fold to make a nice corner. All right, now I need more glue, right? So I'm going to paint along here. Pull that nice and tight. I'll trim back those little greens in a minute. glue here. Oops. Nice and tight. Glue here. Hold it nice and tight. Okay. So while that is drying, I'm going to go ahead and use my alligator clips to hold everything in place. Put it nice and tight. And what these alligator clips will also do is as I go to work on the other side, it will keep, if I have any stray glue like I have right there, it'll keep this page from getting stuck to that glue while I work on the other side. Okay, I have now glued down the second side and I've given it a little time to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and take off my clips. All right. All right. Now we need to take care of these ends. And we use about the same method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and cut these also at kind of a diagonal. So I'll hold this up so you can kind of see. Make sure there won't be any bunching. And then I'm going to take, when I open up this book, there's a little space that opens up here. So I'm going to take and put some glue on this flap. And especially right here at the corners, because that's the only place where I'm going to really have exposed ends of cloth. And then I'm going to use this skewer. I'm going to use this skewer. I'm just going to kind of poke that down in until it's nice and tight with the skewer. Try to make it flush and flat inside there. And then if I need to, I can just put a tiny bit more glue on these few loose ends and make sure they're glued down. Okay, I'm going to do that on the other side as well. Fewer. There was one, I noticed there was one supply that I forgot to mention in the opening, and that is a piece of paper. This is scrapbooking paper. I got it to kind of match, but you could just use plain cardstock if you wanted. So I'm going to open this up and I'm going to use this page. Well, I should go to the second page. I'm going to use this page to measure, I'll right on the back, what size to cut this paper. So everybody can see is just going to trace around and cut, and then on the other side too. So I'm going to need two of them. Trace around. Got those two squares. Now these are we're going to use to cover up all of those rough edges. So I take the glue. I like to glue it to put the glue right on the paper. A little bit more precise than trying to put the glue on the cloth. And I only worry about the sides. I don't worry about putting glue on the middle. A little bit thick right here. So the main guideline for this is this inner fold, and then of course top and bottom. And you can see how those corners that we did, since we folded in the way we did, there isn't any raw edges showing there. So I'll use my clips again, glue that down. Guys, and then I can go and do it on the other side as well. All right, the is all dry and I've taken the clips off. And now we have this lovely covered journal. Of course, you don't have to stop there. It's ready to get more decorations. I'll show you some of the ones that I've done. There's a lot of different ways you could decorate it. Here is one that I did, oh, it's upside down, as a stencil, a dragon stencil, and then I just added a small gem for the eye, which I thought turned out kind of cool. Here's a different stencil that is a flower stencil that I did in two different colors. Well, really, variegated the colors somewhat to bring out the shape of the flower. But here's a really simple one that I did, and these are just iron-ons. I used my Cricut to cut out an iron-on and then just ironed it straight on, and it worked totally fine. It didn't damage the book to do that iron-on. So it was a really simple way to decorate them. Anyway, have fun with it. I hope you enjoy. Be sure and check out my blog, dbookart.blogspot.com. Thanks.